What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams, and I am joined tonight by my one usual co-host, Mr. Kyle Henning. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
Doing all right. Victory Monday after a very frustrating
It is Victory
Sunday.
Monday. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, I should say that so that we all remember that because didn't seem like it was going to be one after the first quarter on Sunday.
No, yeah.
Been
It
a
sure did
long
not.
day. It's going to be a longer week
It's going to be
because
a
of all
long
the
few
crap
weeks,
that
I
we're going to
think.
talk about
Yeah.
tonight. So
Yeah,
it
so
was great. It's
obviously
great to be undefeated. I'm happy. Yay.
4-0. 4-0.
But also joy.
Yeah, so Chiefs obviously going to LA, getting the victory over the Chargers 17-10. And I mean, not a pretty game by any stretch of the imagination. It was kind of a catastrophe, honestly. It's a miracle that the
The
Chiefs
first
ended up.
quarter was.
Yeah, the first quarter specifically was a pretty big catastrophe.
Luckily, they decided to play football the last three
Figured it
quarters
out
because
a
the
little
first
bit
quarter.
the rest of the game, and the Chargers, kind of did Chargers things, just did not capitalize on any opportunities, which that's for you.
Let's start with the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
They
so
started Justin Herbert behind me and you at tackle.
yeah, tough.
Hey, I
Start.
don't know. I can't imagine why their offense couldn't do anything.
Yeah, both of their starting tackles out, and you're going against that Chiefs D line with Chris Jones, Rashawn Wharton, all those guys, and it wasn't a fun time for Justin Herbert. I'll tell you what, he did not have a fun time outside the first drive. Basically, after the first drive, it was all
which
downhill.
That's typical. I mean, that's normal. Spags
people overreact.
Traditionally does that. It
people
seems like
overreact the hell out of that first drive. I mean, that's the first 15 plays where like the offense of the other team has all that pre-scripted. It's all pre-planned. They've practiced that exact set. It's like, yeah, after that, all of a sudden, it becomes a lot harder to call and play football games, especially versus Chiefs Spagnuolo. So that's been the theme that Spags' defenses have been following these past few years, really, and they got it done. I mean, they held very strong in the end after that. Chiefs going down 10-0 and never gave up a point after that. So
the Chiefs essentially scored 27 points on Sunday. Just 10 of them happened to be for the Chargers because the only 10 points that the Chargers scored came off of turnovers by the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Now,
another
was
day
the
of
Carson
turnovers,
Steele fumble farther into Chargers territory than most turnovers? Yes. Did it still result in 7 points off of a turnover? Yes. Sudden change is hard in the NFL, even when it's more of a traditional sudden change.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a lot that we got to get into in this game. A lot of bad stuff, unfortunately, which has been the theme this whole season. Really, the Chiefs have still not put together a clean game, but they're 4-0, so you can only be so mad about certain things. So we're gonna dive into it. Before we dive into the game, though, I will ask everybody who's watching and listening, if you would, to please drop a like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on a podcast platform, if you could rate and review, leave a comment, all that good stuff, we greatly appreciate the support. That goes a long way to continue doing this thing for us. And we've got hopefully some fun upcoming fun weeks in the near future here. And hopefully the Chiefs start playing a little bit better football, so it's more fun to talk about the Chiefs.
Also,
on Victory Mondays.
You're going to need to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and probably to our social media accounts too if you want to get involved on the giveaway that's going to be announced later this week. So
yeah, stay in tune for that. That's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff going on here, Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate you guys for rocking with us so far this year. And
I promise I'm not looking away from you guys. I'm trying to get my technology to function, and it's not. So
yeah, Kyle's over there and just in blackout land where nothing's working for him. So, but he's here. I'm glad to have you here, Kyle. Glad.
I don't know. Am I here? Is it gonna?
I think so. I think so. I mean, we'll find out how long you're here for until it all shuts down on you. But yeah. So let's address the main elephant in the room first and foremost. Let's just get the hard stuff out the way. The first quarter of this Chiefs Chargers game, like we alluded to in the opening, was a disaster. For many multiple ways, starting off with and kind of fatally being the Mahomes interception in that first quarter, where Mahomes just makes a very silly throw like he has been doing the past few weeks, and on the subsequent interception return, he being Patrick Mahomes ends up going for a tackle on the interceptor and inadvertently takes out Rashee Rice, who went down, and it was down for the count. He was out for the rest of the game with a knee injury. That is what we're going to call it.
He was ruled out almost immediately.
Pretty quickly with this knee injury, which just a horrible, really horrible thing to happen to a guy like Rashee, who has been having such a good year so far, been pretty much the focal point of this offense, the main contributor throughout the first 3 games. And to be taken out on a play like that, it's
by your own quarterback.
Bodies, a lot of bodies moving and whatnot. It's just a really tough situation all around.
Okay, well, these are my thoughts and my thoughts only, to steal Country's line from my friends over at the Kingdom Cast because I don't want Garrett catching backlash from this. Patrick was absolutely and totally unexplainably awful in the first quarter, and there's no excuse for it. His decision-making has been terrible at times this year, and that's the worst decision-making I've seen from him in his entire pro career. Just being honest. There's no... Not only do you make a bad mistake with a throw that was way high,
pretty poor throw,
to a guy that's covered pretty well, and I know it's Travis, but that's a tough scenario to make that throw. Not only do you make a bad throw and a bad decision there, you compound your bad throw and bad decision making by going and throwing your throwing shoulder and your helmet at a defender for a tackle on the interception, and instead whiff and smoke your number 1 wide receiver's knee out from underneath him and bend it completely backwards and destroy it. Largely, we think. Well, we have no idea because we keep getting conflicting reports.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of uncertainty about
that. You're at minimum making him miss weeks of time. At least a few.
He's out indefinitely. Yeah, he's going to be out for a while.
Not only did you make a terrible throw, give him up a turnover after already having a turnover that led to a touchdown from your rookie running back, a rookie who we're expecting to have some growing pains along the way because they're a rookie undrafted free agent, but you then put yourself in harm's way to have possibly ended your own season or a long chunk of it by doing something like that. If you're the last line of defense and you want to make an effort, sure. I'd also prefer you in a regular season game in week 4 against a team that doesn't have its starting offensive line to just let it go. Sometimes you have to pick your battles.
Really letting that go,
I don't care.
Yeah.
He's not 21 anymore. I don't care. He's not 21 anymore. He's worth too much to this franchise. He's worth too much to this team because without him, they're not going anywhere. But if he doesn't start making better decisions, they're going to be in trouble when it comes time to matter. And I know it's early, and I know that we preach all the time on this podcast not to panic in September, but this is different entirely than anything we've seen before. He has made poor decisions multiple weeks in a row now. That doesn't happen for him. It just doesn't.
It's a little out of character.
That is consistently bad decision making. Sorry, it is. It's a bad throw. It's a bad idea to go throw your throwing shoulder and lead with your head and throwing shoulder into a tackle. The Rashee thing is a complete accident. He didn't mean to hit his own guy. That's all fine and good. But when you make poor decisions, bad things can happen. And that's my point by bringing it up like that. You can't not do things like that. Can't. You're too important. You're worth too much to the franchise. You can't make those choices. He's got to be better. And he knows that, and he'll say the same thing. But
he knows.
For us to sit, we also have to talk about it and be fair about it because we all love to praise him and give him all the credit in the world when he's fantastic like he usually is. But we have to be able to be willing to talk about when he's not been good, and he's been bad to start this year.
I mean, definitely.
And that first quarter was the worst quarter of football they have played. I mean, rephrase that. That's the worst quarter of football he has played since coming to Kansas City. Period, hands down.
Yeah. And, like I said, Patrick's not shy of getting criticism, and it's very fair for us to criticize his performance, especially in that first quarter. So,
now,
yeah, it wasn't good. It just wasn't good.
He followed that up with a dot bomb to Xavier
Yeah,
Worthy,
he did bounce back though.
much better
So we
throws throughout
gotta
the
so
game, and
Rashee
all that.
Rice,
But I
you know,
just
we have
I know we have to be specific about Patrick, because there will be a section of this fan base that will be very mad and come yell at me because you said bad things about Patrick. No, I said the truth. Sorry about it.
yeah.
He did
So
not play well in that first
moving
quarter.
on from the fact, yeah, that Pat played pretty bad that first quarter. Like we said, Rashee Rice goes down. So early reports still are inconclusive, which is good news more than it's bad news. He's still going to be out for a pretty extended period of time, I would guess. Although initial reports, he hasn't completely torn his ACL. I guess maybe.
We don't know.
There's
So
still a
here's the
lot of
deal.
unknown.
As somebody who's popped a knee and dealt with having to get it MRI'd and X-rayed and blah 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 and done all that, swelling makes MRIs and X-rays really hard to read.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, depending on how much swelling, it can basically be impossible to read because it just looks like a big ball of fluid in there. You can't see through it on some of those scans,
Yeah.
depending on which one you're talking about. So with swelling and a knee injury, unless it's hilariously obvious, it can be a little difficult to read, and they may have to wait for swelling to go down.
Yeah.
The timeline that Schefter released, I think that was the 5th update we got for the day, about 2 hours ago, is it will be likely next week before we hear anything. Now, my assumption is, and that's all that it is at this point, is 1, it's because of the swelling, and 2, because they're looking for a second opinion on it. And my guess is because they're wanting a second opinion, the doctor of the second opinion wants the swelling to go down and probably can't see him in person until then. That would be my guess for why you don't have an answer sooner than that. Because a lot of people wanted the answer today, expecting it tomorrow at the latest.
And to be
Probably
clear,
going to take a little
usually,
longer.
typically with ACL tears and stuff like this, if it's a complete and full tear, it's usually pretty obvious right away. And I think Charles Omenihu, when he had his last year, it was the next morning. It was, yep, it is torn. Yeah, it is definitely torn. So it's a decent sign. There's still a shred of optimism and a shred of hope that, you know, Rashee isn't out for the entire season with a full torn ACL. But yeah, he is going to be missing some time for sure. Which will lead into a lot more conversations going on this week that we'll probably won't cover in this episode necessarily because there's still a lot of uncertainty around the receiver position now going forward. But that is kind of the case.
I would say it like this.
The aftermath of that.
I would say it like this. When my initial injury happened, the immediate thought and the immediate scan were deemed to be, we're pretty sure it's an ACL. But we need the swelling to go down before we can tell for sure. Well, 2 weeks later, the swelling still hadn't gone down. And that was because, turns out, it wasn't swelling, it was fluid. So, after they got rid of the swelling, which went down apparently right about 3 to 4 days after, and they removed the 90 cc's of fluid from my knee, I tweeted this out earlier. They then did another MRI and an X-ray, and come to find out, it didn't have major structural damage. I just dislocated the kneecap, and it popped itself right back into place, and everything was hunky-dory. You didn't need surgery, you just needed rehab. That's like best case scenario.
Optimism.
Okay?
There is optimism.
That's as best case scenario as it gets, probably. I caution everybody to be a little less, little. Don't go running out and, oh, that's great. No, okay, that would be great, but I don't necessarily think that's what we're dealing with here. I think there's probably some ligament damage because technically it cut off a little bitty tiny piece of ligament cartilage in my knee when it dislocated, and that's still floating around in there. When you do things to those knees and those joints, regardless of how much, all of that shifts and twists because it's basically all tucked behind that kneecap. And when that moves, and when his went backward and out, it makes it very likely that those ligaments at minimum got very stretched and strained.
Yeah. And it's
still going to take some rehab time to fix, even if it's not damaged.
One upside of it was that his foot didn't stay planted on the turf.
That was the good news.
So that was that, because obviously if the foot is still planted on the turf, that's gonna just emphasize that stretch a lot.
That
So,
may have broken some things if his foot was stuck in the ground.
yes.
Like,
So,
legitimately could have been
it's not
catastrophic.
entirely doom and gloom for Rashee. Hopefully, diagnoses are okay. But going forward, the offense is going to have to learn to adapt without him for at least a little while. And ultimately, throughout the rest of the game, they kind of started to figure it out more. That led mostly with getting Travis Kelce back involved. They were definitely feeding him pretty heavily. He had like 89 yards, I think, on the day or something like that. Um, Several catches and whatnot. So it was a good day from Travis Kelce. He had a big bounce back game, and we had talked about Rashee Rice kind of filling that role of Travis Kelce and doing the Travis Kelce like things that Travis wasn't doing necessarily, and now Travis is back doing it. So it's not because there's kind of a lack of Rashee Rice now. So it's a positive and a negative, but Travis obviously looked really good. The rest of the offense,
they're still off a tick.
They're still off.
Him and Mahomes are still off a tick.
And
not
it's
all the way through, but a little bit.
Still mostly on Mahomes too, which is kind of the thing. He is still very uncomfortable back there in the pocket. The happy feet have been on an all-time high.
He's out of clean pockets.
Yeah, he's been very uncomfortable with the whole situation that he's been in, and now losing. It's very unfortunate. You lose your two top receivers only 5 weeks into the or 4 weeks into the season, and also your top running back and all these things. So, it's going to take some more time for the whole offense to adjust now. And now there's a bunch of new pieces that are going to have to step up and contribute more. So,
injury luck is a thing in the NFL. This team has had pretty good injury luck over the last several years.
We've avoided it pretty strongly. So, but there is still optimism, especially for the offense. Xavier Worthy had a really good game, which I love to see. Obviously highlighted by the absolutely gorgeous deep ball from Patrick Mahomes to him.
God.
Just it was Mahomes' longest air yard completion of his career. Like, he threw that ball farther than he has ever thrown a ball in an NFL
regular
season. Has he had
that
farther?
That Falcons touchdown was like 70 yards, and I think it was like pretty close to that in the air too.
I remember that back in the preseason. Yeah. But just an absolutely beautiful throw. And, I talked about it on Twitter and everything when it happened. It's like, that's exactly what you draft Xavier Worthy for. He was the best deep ball catcher in the draft, bar none. I mean, he had so many of those in college where you just absolutely air it out, and he's going to track the ball and he's going to haul it in, especially with the guy. He had a defender draped over him too at the end of that play. And
he literally got tackled in the end zone before the ball got there, and he still made the catch.
Yeah. So, I mean, you combine the one-of-a-kind speed, that the Mahomes' arm, all that stuff. It's like, I don't know why they don't do that like 5-6 times a game and just absolutely air it out.
Defense dictates a lot of that. Patrick hasn't been willing to throw it deep in cover 2 is another portion of it.
Yeah, that's true. And on that play specifically as well, Travis Kelce played a huge role because Travis got the attention of that other deep safety who said, Xavier Worthy's running by me. But Travis Kelce's right here, like, I got to cover him.
Yeah, he took the left field safety and held him a little bit. The other thing that a lot of Cam Taylor-Britt probably missed this on film too. Fun fact, Rashee, God, we've been talking about him so long now, the last 15 minutes. Xavier doesn't run straight just to run straight. If you actually go back and watch that play, he hits a hesitation near the middle-ish of the top to the top-ish of that route to freeze the corner completely, and then absolutely dusts him to the zone.
Yeah.
And honestly, as great as that throw was, probably wasn't right where he wanted it.
Yeah, I mean,
it probably should have been farther outside towards where he was running, because if you watch like the dots really give it away, you can see it on the all 22 too. But if you see the dots, he's running straight, and just a little curve in towards the goalpost, towards the end zone there, because the ball was a little more inside than it probably needed to be, but he had the whole end zone to throw it to as long as he got it to him. So
yeah, still a really, really good throw by Pat, and something that you just haven't seen him do. If you're
off a yard on 63 yards in the air,
you're years, you haven't seen Pat like really step back up there and just launch those things, And every time they have the past few years, it's been, either resulted in a drop. MVS probably dropped it or something, or just the lack of confidence in the deep ball from Mahomes was pretty prevalent this past few years. So, really need to see more of that. Obviously, that's going to be a huge factor for the offense going forward, is getting that more of a factor, getting Xavier more involved in any way. I mean, he's been running some good routes. He's been having a good few weeks of NFL film. So now that role is only going to expand, and I'm excited to see it personally. Obviously, the circumstances aren't great. Wish we still had Rashee and Hollywood and all this stuff, and the offense could really be explosive. But the way you can also kind of look at it like it's very similar to the wide receiver room we had in 2022 when we won the Super Bowl. Then you just subtract MBS and Kadarius Toney, and you add in Xavier Worthy, and you basically have the same offense than that what you had there. So at bare minimum, you have a team that can definitely win the Super Bowl still. There's obviously no panic about that, but it's gonna keep getting hard. It's gonna be a real tough one this year. So another guy that we have to highlight on the offense who had a phenomenal day, making his Chiefs return, Mr. Kareem Hunt, who went out there and rode the hot hand. I mean, he took the opportunity. The Carson Steele fumble early on in the game, and he really made it worth. And I'll tell you, Kyle, he had some juice still in him. Kareem Hunt still had some juice that we could see from. Right, I mean, it looked very similar to what he was looking like a couple 5-6 years ago in Chiefs uniform.
I don't know if I'd go quite 5-6 years ago, but definitely looked.
Oh, come on. Oh,
definitely
come
looked
on.
more like 2021, 2022, or 2019, 2020. Cleveland Kareem when he was running well and being a legitimate back 1-2 punch with Nick Chubb and / running for Nick Chubb when Nick Chubb was out injured. Last year's sports hernia appears to have really slowed him down last year as far as
tough.
the actual on the field. Like, he still had 9 touchdowns and all that stuff's great. Watching him play, watching the actual activeness, the motion, the movement, he looks healthy. I think the biggest sign that he looks healthy is the him on the ground doing the feed me after a
Yeah,
9-yard
cool.
run or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was
Look,
cool.
I told you last week, you're going to get whatever he's got left. He's going to give you everything because he wants redemption real bad for what happened.
Oh, yeah.
He wants
and
a
he
chance
did it.
to
I mean, he
redeem
got
himself.
it. He had 85 total yards on the day. They gave him 14 carries. He caught 2 passes. And that obviously was partly because of the, Carson Steele fumbling early and them deciding to ride the hot hand, as Andy Reid alluded to.
They rode the hot hand, but I
good.
also that likely signifies Kareem is probably going to take your starting role at this point.
I believe so. Yeah,
he's going to get a large chunk of the carries right now. They're still going to use Carson. He'll still have his situations. I think it'll be back more to the role that he was in when we had Pacheco. Which that's good news. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. There was a little bit over zealous to give Carson that many snaps so early.
No, I mean, they didn't have a choice. There's a reason that he had 70-something yards in the last game and ran really well and whatnot, and he did fine. He's also a rookie, and there's going to be growing pains. We talked about ball security issues. Garrett doesn't think that it was a ball security thing on this last fumble.
I mean, he did. I mean, it was.
I disagree.
At least it was different than his first fumble where he was loosey with carrying.
Out here with it.
He had that thing pretty tucked away. It's just gotta be stronger than that. Gotta hold on to it better than getting it ripped away. But at least it wasn't just flailing all around on some Shady McCoy type stuff. That's
level of competition has changed.
Thing.
I think is his thing. The level of competition is different. The best defender in the Pac-12 or in whatever godforsaken conference he was playing in before that last year at UCLA.
Yeah, Ball State. I don't know what Ball State's in.
Yeah, like I said, the MEAC or whatever.
Yeah,
it's something not power anything.
Yeah,
Group of 5.
Just a little bit different when even the backup linemen
defender
really,
in that
good.
league might be an NFL player, but not every defender on the field.
Yeah, not all
an
11
NFL player.
Yeah.
He's not running against Georgia's defense every week, or So there's an adjustment, and whereas it used to be 3 guys on the field were a threat to knock that ball out from me. Now all 11 are, because grown man strength is also a real thing.
Yep.
And
Found out.
NFL grown man strength is an even different level than regular grown man strength. Those are
Yeah.
called superhumans at this point. Like, I know everybody's like, oh, they're just guys. Yes, to an extent. They're also guys that willingly get in car wrecks 50 times a game, every game.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
it's not the same thing. There's a
Yeah.
strength difference. There is a speed difference, and that, in a larger sample size with a young guy who is still learning, will lead to more mistakes, which we saw.
Yep.
Which is why he ended up only getting less snaps than Sky Moore in this game. He had 11. I believe Sky had 12.
Yeah. So I don't
Kareem
think
ended up with 28. Samaje ended up with 25.
yeah,
Samaje is your third down back, it looks like.
seems like
Um,
it. Yeah, they gave him a
I
goal
would
line carry,
like
get him a
to
touchdown. That was cool.
see. You want to talk about 2017, 2018 Kareem? That's fine. But they need to do some more things like that then. He did
Yeah,
not
get him
get
more involved in the
screen
passing game.
passes. Yes.
Yeah, because
This is,
there's a couple signs they get. Like I said, they threw him to him 2 times, but
yeah.
it wasn't anything crazy.
This
If they
is my
used him
deal.
more in the Samaje P Ryan role, if they've been given with more screens and stuff like that,
Not
we
even
might
the
see it come
Samaje
alive.
role. I don't even care about the Samaje role. You want to use him as your main back, fine, and you still want to give Samaje his touches, great. That's fine. But don't be, oh, when Kareem's in, we're going to run. And when Samaje's in, they're going to throw.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
do
kind of an
that.
obvious tell. Yeah, that's kind of a tell. Yeah,
And I
don't
don't
need
think
that.
it'll stay that way. I think that was partially out of necessity for how this game played out and what kind of
Yeah,
played.
like Andy said, he was riding the hot hand, and it just became very obvious that
And
Kareem was the best runner on that day.
so
So they were going to run the ball with him.
with that, that's fine. But now you've seen all that. The next step is adding the
Adding
next
more.
piece to
Yeah,
his playbook.
exactly.
I will. Here's the other thing I will add, and then we can move on. Clyde is now eligible to start practicing again. Not saying
Yes.
he is. Not saying he's ready. I'm not going to speak for Clyde at all when it comes to his mental state and where he's at and what he's dealing with and where he's at in his process.
Yeah.
At any means, I am simply telling you that the window is open.
He is now eligible. Yeah.
He is eligible. They have not designated him for practice yet that I have seen.
No, I
So
don't think so. Yeah.
it also may tell you a little bit of a story as to why there's still only 52 guys on the roster.
Makes no sense, but it makes some sense. But it makes
It
no
makes some
sense.
sense because they are so. Fun
If it
fact.
saves them like a little bit of salary, I'm cool with it, I guess.
So there's two pieces. One, when you bring a guy up to the active roster from the practice squad and give them an active roster spot, they guarantee 3 weeks of salary. So you get 3 game
Oh
checks.
yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Even if they only play 1 game, you get 3 game checks. So they're still paying for 53 guys on the roster, even though technically they only have 52.
Yeah. So they could be paying for a lot more, I guess. Yeah.
Also, because they're not transitioning players back and forth from rosters, they don't have to make a cut if Omenihu were to get back early or if
Right.
Clyde were to come back and be ready to go. Yeah. If Clyde comes back relatively soon, you may see less of Carson Steele even more.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against the kid.
No, yeah, I think he's still going to have a role.
You just become the 4th running back at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get interesting to see how they handle the running back rotation going forward. But the one thing is definitely clear is that Kareem, he's your number 1 guy right now for the foreseeable future, and it looked good. I mean, I'm very confident running Kareem out there with that offensive line who was playing pretty good. The offensive line played pretty good, especially in the run game, pass blocking. That's another thing. They're not bad, but like we talked about with Pat, he's still not comfortable back there. Wanye Morris is still the left tackle, and I think he'll still be the left tackle for the next couple weeks. But not
really sure.
Not like a standout performance. He's not like he's wowing them necessarily out there. He's serviceable, I guess. I know Kyle has a lot of thoughts on on the left tackle situation.
Yeah, they've completely mishandled it all the way around. Again, my thoughts only, blah, blah, blah. Look, man, if you didn't think he was ready and you thought Wanye was better, then Wanye should have started the year. Also, if you didn't think that, why didn't you give him help? against
Right.
one of the best pass rushers in the league.
Yeah, we
Now,
thought he was the second best tackle. You didn't even give him
you've
help.
gotten pretty similar or even maybe not as good of results against lesser pass rushers the last 2 weeks out of Wanye that you got out of Kingsley in that first game against the Ravens, and even this through, I mean, the first quarter and a half of the Bengals game, he was fine-ish until Trey figured out what his weakness was and then spammed the button.
Pounced on it, you know.
Like, if you're going to do that, A, help him,
Yeah.
but B,
Yeah.
don't sit here and pretend that Wanye has been somehow this massive improvement when he really hasn't been. They're still having trouble over that left side. Patrick is still doesn't trust it. They're helping and chipping to that side free a lot. Go back and watch the 22 the last couple of games with Wanye. They're throwing Travis at it. They're throwing running backs at it. They got wide receivers occasionally get into it to the point where it's screwing up some of their route concepts, I think. Because legitimately, I've watched Patrick a couple of times look to go to throw where the guy who was throwing the chip was, and he's not there because he's still dealing with chipping or whatever help. Like, if you were going to do all that for Wanye, what's the difference than letting Kingsley learn on the field? Because a lot of Kingsley's stuff that he needs to learn comes from reps, and practice reps and game reps are never going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of issues with the way that they've handled it. They don't mishandle stuff very often when it comes to players like this, but this is similar to Patrick doesn't normally play like crap and make terrible decisions, but he has been. This is the same tenor to this conversation.
Yeah, they usually don't mishandle things, but
this has not been handled correctly, or at least, and I won't say not handled correctly. This hasn't been handled well. This has not been done particularly well.
Yeah, and I'll say, I do agree with a lot of what Kyle's saying, and we might look back on this in 2-3 years and say
I
it really
really hope
matter.
not.
Yeah,
I really hope that's the case. I thought you were
going
going to say it's an issue because I legitimately.
Yeah, hopefully we look back on it in a couple years and it's like it didn't entirely matter. Kingsley came around, they end up starting him the next year. Blah blah blah. Who knows? The future is still very uncertain at left tackle. I think.
Just don't understand and basically intentionally torpedoing your potentially your future left tackle's confidence because you didn't draft him to not be your left tackle of the future. That's why you drafted him.
That is kind of the reason you drafted him. Yeah,
if that was your goal and plan, which it definitely was by everything they've done all offseason, they didn't bring a veteran back. They didn't add tackle depth. They didn't even make it a contest in camp, really. And you can tell me, well, Wanye got banged up in camp. Yeah, like the first week, and then he was back the rest of camp. There's no way that you can tell me that they didn't have the opportunity to tell if Wanye and him were like, that's insane. Insane. And if he was healthy enough to come in during the Bengals game as the backup, he was healthy enough to start the Bengals game, which also means he was probably healthy enough to start the Ravens game. And we know he was because he wasn't even on the freaking injury report unless they're the 49ers. So, yeah, Christian McCaffrey apparently has Achilles tendonitis in both Achilles now because it's contagious. It's crazy.
Both of it.
So, like I said, they don't do this stuff very often, but that just makes no sense at all how they've handled this. And unless you're planning on moving Wanye to the right when Jawan's contract expires, which I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Wouldn't be opposed to it, yeah.
But Jawan's played really well up until last game. And even last game, I thought he was largely fine except for the couple of penalties, and one of them was kind of questionable. But got to clean it up a little bit.
And if you have a cheaper option like Wanye, who can...
It's not $23 million a year, then yes.
Yeah.
But again, man, you've now... Because this is the other part. We talked about Patrick not being comfortable. Well, he worked all camp and trusted all camp that Kingsley was going to be his left tackle. And now... I trust both guys. No, okay, great. Awesome. Yes.
I mean, Pat's going to say that. Yeah, he's going to say that, but.
Awesome. But
what did Bobby say? Has Bobby said anything about this?
No, not really.
You know what Bobby thinks. Bobby's stroke.
I bet if you hooked Pat up to a lie detector test and asked him which one he trusted more, the answer would be Kingsley.
I mean, probably, yeah, probably.
And I know that sounds crazy because he's only played like a game and a third with him or whatever, but he worked all offseason with him. That's the line that worked together was the core, Jawan Taylor, and Kingsley. And people forget that matters too. Because that O-line chemistry together makes a huge difference. And I know Wanye played with them last year and he's been around and he's been in the building, and that's all fine and great. That's not who practiced with them all offseason as the starter. It's not. So none of it really makes a lot of sense from the decisions we've seen. Yes, he got baptized by fire against Trey Hendrickson. You know, most tackles that are rookies are going to get baptized by fire against Trey Hendrickson. That's how that works. I just don't understand the philosophy of this at this point based on all of the things they've done, all of the things they've told us with their actions, which speak way louder than their words. So,
yep.
I really hope, like Garrett said, that this isn't a big issue later this year, knock on wood, if we have to go that route again, or next year. Because I'll be honest, like I said, between the two of them, there's not much gap except for a Trey Hendrickson. Yeah. Everything else has been pretty even.
Another thing I found pretty interesting about the whole situation too, last week when Wanya got the first start, obviously, and they started bringing in Kingsley as the extra offensive lineman, and they did that for like 2 plays, and then after that, the extra offensive lineman ever since then has been Mike Caliendo. They aren't even putting Kingsley out as that extra offensive lineman.
And I'm almost positive the only reason he played the 2 extra offensive tackle snaps is so that Andy could say he didn't lie in the press conference. Because he flat out would have been lying his ass off in that press conference.
So that's what I found interesting too. Every time they send Mike Caliendo out there instead of Kingsley, it's very
I'll have to go back. You know? I didn't watch the Caliendo snaps. I
didn't. Yeah, I don't know what Caliendo's doing out there. It might just be a case of the fact
extra
that
run blocker.
He actually. Well, yeah, no, I'm saying like how he's actually performing, but it's probably more of a case that Mike actually just practiced that type of stuff in camp because, you know, Kingsley was kind of busy practicing being the starting left tackle.
The actual left tackle, and Wanye was hurt.
Yeah, so because I remember on one of those plays last week when Kingsley came out, I don't think he knew exactly where to line up, which was kind of a problem, which, I mean, you're sending him out there to do something he's not practiced. So
he's been lining up off of the guard for the entirety of his career. Yeah, and now he's supposed to line up off the tackle also?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting situation. Something to monitor going forward, but it's still Wanye's job as of now. So we're going to see, barring a pretty bad performance by him, I'm guessing we're probably going to see him for the foreseeable future at left tackle. But
that's the problem. I don't think they know.
Yeah, they probably don't even know still. I don't know. So that kind of wraps up the offensive talk. That was kind of the least fun of the two sides. The defense.
Dream was great. Travis was great. Xavier was great. The rest was
not very good. Yeah, not very good.
And we didn't even mention. I guess we should briefly touch on it because the discourse is never going to stop. So Sky Moore didn't have a good snap again.
Sky Moore dropped his one target of the season. Yep, first target of the year, dropped it.
There's also a clip that came out of our good friend over. Where is he now? Which freaking KC station is he on? I can't remember.
Harold at Fox 4 KC.
Fox 4. I thought it was Fox 4. I wanted to say KCTV5, but I knew that wasn't right. So Fox 4, Harold Kuntz was on, dropped a clip. Basically, Brett was rather displeased with the drop.
Yeah.
Audibly known through the press box where they were at because he's sitting behind him, I guess. Look, man. Yeah, it wasn't great. He also doesn't ever see the ball. So, like, I don't know what you expect him. A lot of people, like, I get it. He's a wide receiver. It's his job. He has to be better. You have to make that catch. You have to do those things. But also, as we just got done talking about with Kingsley, if you don't ever get reps at doing something, it's really hard to be good at doing that thing.
That's true.
He's got 40 snaps on the year, and that's his first target.
Yeah,
and you don't throw it to him.
And whether
he get used to catching it,
and whether we like it or not, they're gonna need Sky for the next couple.
They're gonna need somebody.
They're gonna need him at least a couple times the next few weeks. So That's the offense. The defense played a lot better. It's kind of the same story. Defense every week has been playing really good. They know how to finish the job and keep control of the game, even when the offense just gives the other team so many opportunities, so many turnovers. But doesn't phase the defense. Chris Jones had a phenomenal game, 2 sacks on the day. He is firmly challenging for a Defensive Player of the Year ballot, and it's he has a pretty likely case this year so far from what I'm seeing.
Unbelievable.
He's on a different level this year. He's newly motivated. That big new contract. He's been making himself known this year.
Game wrecking and wrecking whole games.
Whole game, yeah, start to finish, run game, pass game. It doesn't matter. Like he's showing up all the time. Like he's having a really good
tried
year.
To tell us he was going to get paid and then stop caring.
He just cares more now. He's actually just more motivated.
One of them's a prominent sports talk radio host in Kansas City on a certain radio station. Been trying to trade Chris Jones for 2 contracts now and said he was going to not play hard after he got his deal. But
that's not looking great. It's not looking great so far.
Boy, I wish he'd have put that on the internet so we could have old takes exposed that instead of just having him have it in audio form.
Yeah. So Chris Jones, phenomenal game from him.
I mean, now we already talked about the Chargers have a bunch of cab drivers playing offensive line because their whole offense.
Yeah.
Well, because both tackles got hurt, so instead of just putting in backup tackles, they moved their starting left guard to tackle, and then put in another backup.
Yeah, I think they actually put Trey Pipkins at right tackle too, which is usually left guard, and then they put a different guard. So we actually didn't see Alex Leatherwood, unfortunately,
which was probably good for them.
But also it's not like their other options worked out a whole lot better for him. So
no, because not only did Chris Jones have a huge day and absolutely destroy a lot of things.
Yeah.
My second favorite player on this team at this point that's not one of the big crazy names that everybody always loves.
Yeah.
Tershawn Wharton.
Turk.
He's been almost as good as Chris has been. And actually there's a couple of advanced stats that say he's been better in some areas, which is
in some areas. Pass rush. The pass rush aspect of Turk has been phenomenal.
Never a bad thing when you're slightly better than Chris Jones at something on the defensive line.
Slightly better than not just Chris Jones, but like everybody.
Everybody,
like,
the whole league.
Like everybody in the whole league, he's slightly better at in a couple stats. So yeah, Tershawn Wharton just absolutely continuing to have a phenomenal year. I mean, this is a career year by far, and it's only week 4 for him. So that's awesome to see. The rest of the D-line, George Karlaftis did okay. Mike Dana was out for the game, which we kind of hinted at on our preview episode. And so filling in for him mostly was, FAU got the start, and he
Malik Herring destroyed Justin Herbert on a play.
Malik Herring got in there and leveled Justin Herbert on one play, and then another defensive end that we saw, not Cam Thomas, who we thought we might see, but old Leo Chanel. They put him out there at defensive end.
That would be defensive end Leo Chanel. That's what we said.
Defensive end who's also a linebacker, also a 3-tech, also everything on that defense.
One thing he doesn't play is safety, I'm fairly certain.
I wouldn't be surprised if they drop him out one time or two, one of those classic looks. But yeah, they played Leo Chanel at edge rusher this game. And once again, Leo Chanel, he does good in pretty much every role that you give him in. And he was largely fine. He didn't have a sack on the game, I guess, but he was great. He was playing phenomenal game.
He's strong enough.
Yeah, he's like I said, they put him at 3-tech sometimes. So that should tell you how strong this guy is. They've said that he is easily probably the strongest guy on the team, which is saying something because there's a lot of big dudes on that team. And he's only 250, and he's clearing some of those guys. And obviously the defensive line played great. The Chargers only had not very many yards. J.K. Dobbins had 32 yards on 14 carries.
Look, they can't run the ball. Look, teams can't run the ball on this defense. And I don't know that I ever thought I would say that about a Chiefs defense.
No, they're like a very good 90s run defense team. It's been 4 weeks now where every single opposing running back. Bijan Robinson last week. The Ravens.
Derrick Henry week 1.
Yeah, it's been a theme that this defense is shutting down.
The only guy that's run on them is the quarterback for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean
The only guy.
that's always a given. Yeah, but as far as running
And
backs
even even
in the
he
game,
didn't have a great day.
yeah, he didn't even destroy us as much as he usually does on the ground. But yeah,
They
this
they're
defense
eating.
has been
J.K. Dobbins had averaged like 130 yards over the first 3 weeks. Averaged.
Yep,
And he
that
had
was him.
30.
32, yeah, that's that was pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Man, like I said, I know that O-line was banged up. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah, so shout out to the D-line for being the leaders in that. Obviously, the linebackers were playing pretty good too. Nick Bolton had an okay game. Drew Tranquil had an up or down game, but
he's not been great to start the year either. If we're being 100% about Drew.
Drew has taken a bit of a step back, which is unfortunate.
He's been asked to do some stuff where I'm like, what?
Yeah,
why?
I mean he has a lot bigger role this year than he did, especially early on this season last year.
Spags, I love you. Drew Tranquil against Ladd McConkey in man coverage is a mismatch for the offense.
I mean, hey, we know it's like Dan Sorensen out there all over again. You know, it's
no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not even. Dan Sorensen wouldn't have been. Dan Sorensen wouldn't have been in the frame, and Ladd McConkey would have scored if Dan Sorensen was the guy.
Dan's a dog, all right. That wasn't even a shot. That wasn't even supposed to be a shot at my boy Dirty Dan.
The play that I'm referring to, that Ladd McConkey got 20 yards on a third down because they put him in single man coverage on Ladd in the slot as a safety, basically, and not a line. Like, I love Drew. He can cover a lot of guys.
That's
wide receivers out of the slot, especially ones like Ladd.
Yeah, he's a very small, shifty guy. Yeah, that's a tough look. So I mean, the
like
Chargers definitely found a couple.
Like Dan, I'm like Dan would have been visible on the screen when Ladd caught that.
My boy Dan would have been.
I love Dan. He made a lot of plays.
Ladd might have got like 5
wide receivers one-on-one out of the slot is not his thing.
Ladd might have got like 5 extra yards if it was Dan. All right, that's not. Okay, but yeah. So I mean, the Chargers found a couple good matchups that they were able to exploit. Obviously, Ladd had 67 yards on the day, so it wasn't it was kind of a bad. I mean, they didn't play good, and Justin Herbert only had 179 passing yards. So
secondary was great again.
Secondary played really good.
Have any wide receivers at all? Josh Palmer was back for this game, which is the first time he was back all season. So
true.
They were the wide receiving core. I thought the tight ends would do more than they did.
Will Dissly had one early on, and then that was kind of
screenplay, and it was a screen. It wasn't really a wide. What had been killing this team was wide receivers routing up linebackers, Nick Bolton. And then didn't really happen this game because I don't know that they really allowed the matchups to occur like that because I don't think they really felt threatened by a lot of the other things around.
Yeah.
So
they definitely got better in that matchup category. Yeah.
It was a good day to be playing a really, really depleted / not very good overall offense.
Yeah.
Because of what happened with our offense to start this game. But at the same time, that's a game in the past that they probably lose. And I know we've said that a couple of times to start the season. But we've watched this team lose these games before, just like this.
That game could have very easily got out of hand if the defense doesn't put their foot down and say, "This we ain't letting."
They made a goal stop.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a really good showing for the defense.
2 at the 4 or whatever it was, and made the stop.
They stuffed
like
them.
you. That's points off the board. They created their own success. The defense did. And again, that's been consistent now for the last year and some change. It's the best unit on the team right now. It is.
Yeah. It's
great. It's not what we expected this season to be because we expected this offense to take a step, but we're now missing 3/4 of the main portion of the offense, 3/5.
Yeah.
So I'll say 3/5 because four pass catching options in your running back. So of the weaponry option, 3/5.
Yeah.
And with all of that, and with all of the frustrations, and with all of the problems, they still haven't lost. And
4-0, baby.
They won by 7 points.
Yeah, they covered. I think.
No, the game line opened at 8.5. I think it was at 7 by the time the game started on some books.
I thought I saw that. it might have been 7.5 actually when I saw it, so they might not.
FanDuel had it at 7 right before kickoff. DraftKings was at 7 right before kickoff.
Yeah.
But it started at 8.5. Now, to say again, they're just finding ways to get things done, and it's September, and they've not played a. Andy said this in the locker room. Hey, we're getting there. We're almost there. We almost put everything together,
Yep.
which I disagree with the almost in some of those instances.
Yeah.
They've not played a good game yet.
Nope.
Not as a whole collective.
And we're still 4-0, baby.
And they're undefeated, and they have a 2-game lead on the division, on everybody in the division.
Yeah, only two 4-0 teams left now. We're the only ones in the AFC
us
game.
and Sam Darnold and the Vikings.
Just like everyone would have thought before the season. 2 4-0 teams. Chiefs and the Vikings.
Destroying the Packers until the Packers figured out that they could, go no huddle and play up tempo, and then all of a sudden they could move the ball. Look, this team, their whole goal is the Super Bowl, okay? And we get all that. They are going to have to get through the dog days of this season because it's going to be harder now. It's going to be harder with the pieces that are missing. It's going to be more difficult with some of that, because at first it was kind of the questions were they're going to have to build some chemistry and whatnot. Well, now you rip all that up and throw it away because nobody's there.
Yeah,
there's nobody there.
Unless just reunite the whole 2018 offense. Just get them all back.
Sammy Watkins is still alive. He's not retired.
I didn't even think about Sammy, bro. We got to dig him out of whatever jungle he's in right now.
I was gonna say, what lizard aquarium terrarium is he hiding in?
He's probably just chilling under a rock somewhere.
Somebody go find the Lizard King.
Yeah, he's probably just chilling under a rock. Just
if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Sammy is one of our favorite humans on the planet, but he is a very odd duck.
I'll take Sammy back right now. I don't even care.
I don't know what Sammy's been up to for the last year or two, so I don't know that Sammy
might not pass a couple of the.
Sammy may look like Kelvin Benjamin. He also may look like
pass a couple of drug tests. Yeah,
I don't know. Well, he could have either blown up or shrunk. We don't know, but look, I do think they're going to have to figure something out from a wide receiver standpoint. I don't know if you have the replacements on the roster. I know Andy in his press conference today was all, we need the receiver to know the system. We can't really just bring any wide receiver in willy-nilly. Andy. And I was talking to a buddy who is a non-Chiefs fan, who is currently watching his head coach, who is considered an offensive guru, struggle mightily to be able to work with backups in roles. He's a Dolphins fan. That train wreck that we watched on TV tonight. If you're listening to this, the Monday night game was the Dolphins Titans, which we were recording this.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
And I guess I want to read this to you because this is an outside fan perspective here on this, and it's we don't really think about it, and I don't think, because Andy lies to us all the time and tells us all of this stuff all the time, that we just all believe it at this point a lot of the time. I'm going to read you this because it involves about the substitutes.
Let's hear it.
Andy says here's the basis at its most simple, like the basics. Here's one wrinkle or two wrinkles we might do if you're clicking. This is in regards to Tyler Huntley playing quarterback for the Dolphins and him struggling with just even getting them to not take illegal formation or illegal motion penalties because he couldn't get the snap timing down because they're trying to do too many things. He said, this is where I think Andy excels and Mike will struggle. The line is sketchy and Huntley doesn't have anything. When we have those issues, when Andy has a team that has deficiencies or has substitutes playing key roles, the game plan is something they can digest. It's to their strengths, it's to their understanding, it's to what they can do. Not many coaches, and I would say most coaches, cannot do this. This is the same conversations we hear about with drafted quarterbacks when we're going to come in and learn our system instead of tailoring it around them. Cliff Kingsbury's doing a really good job with it with Jaden Daniels in Washington right now.
Jaden Daniels popping off, yeah. Playing
Kid's
really good
balling.
ball. Yeah.
But I said, and I just wanted to clarify to him, Andy being Reed, and his response was, yeah, Mike is probably trying to stay, deep in the bag instead of simplifying things a little bit and making it understandable and making it function easy and cleaning up some of the extra stuff that you don't necessarily do when you have backups in. Quote, new pieces are no problem at all in what can be one of the most sophisticated offenses because his ability to simplify it at any position, scheme, personnel. It's incredible, actually. That's a Dolphins fan just casually observing the Chiefs because he watches them nonstop because he lives in Kansas. Like, it's something we don't talk about. It's something we don't really think about all that often outside of the quarterback position in this industry in the NFL.
Yeah.
But what Andy does with Carson Steele last week, with insert your substitute here, Wanye Morris. We talked about it earlier. Why I'm so frustrated with what they did to Kingsley versus Wanye. They bring Wanye in, and all of a sudden, we're simplifying and we're helping and we're chipping and which did not exist in Kingsley's time frame. It does now. You bring in Carson Steele, who's taking over for Pacheco, and last week the game plan was dumbed down for him. It wasn't crazy. They weren't doing a whole variety of runs. They ran basically the same group of running plays, the same couple of run plays, left or right, but it was basically the same structure concept-wise.
Yeah.
It's a luxury to have a coach that can do that. I just think sometimes people need to remind Andy that he can do that. Because
right.
What he said at the press conference today versus what we watch him do all the time is crazy. There are veteran wide receivers that you could go get.
Yeah.
I don't know how expensive they're going to be. I don't know how much your trade you're going to have to give up. There's probably going to be some of these guys that aren't going to be terribly expensive because they're expiring contracts on bad teams.
Yeah.
But at minimum, and I know the Chiefs only have like $5 million in cap space. Well, fun fact, teams eat salary cap all the time when you make trades. You may have
you can
to
also
cough
just
up more of a
move a couple contracts around, restructure some guys. Yeah,
there is some guys you could restructure. Juwan Taylor being one, if you're comfortable with him being your left tackle again for another year or two, on top of what you had originally maybe planned that out for with the end of the guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Well, I mean they plan outs for everybody's contract except Patrick's pretty much.
Yeah. I get what you're saying though about Andy. Yeah. I mean we saw it a couple years ago with Kadarius Toney. Like they traded for him and got him
the
pretty much right in the.
And that's the thing, man. Like, I know you don't want to. I know it's not your preferred method, but you can do it.
Yeah, and I would say, and there's going to be a lot more wide receiver conversation and trade talk and rumors and all that stuff. It's a different time when you're going for a three-peat. It's like, hey, you might have to it might be worth taking a big swing and getting a guy like, Amari Cooper on maybe a 1-year rental.
I don't even know if it's a big swing. Is that a big swing?
I mean, it might be a big swing.
It's going to be $1.2 million because of what the Browns did for restructures and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if the Browns are going to give them up for pennies, though. I don't think they give it up for pennies.
Well, we have a Titans third rounder if you really had to go up, but I don't know that it's not necessarily like a fifth. I mean, that's
true.
what the Cowboys traded in for.
I think there's also the Chiefs tax though that we have to remember.
For the Browns, for the we can't win it all because Deshaun Watson sucks.
Yeah, I mean the Browns aren't the smartest ownership group, so we might get away with it with them. But there is definitely probably a good consensus around the league. If you're going to do business with the Chiefs, you're probably going to tax them a little bit. But we'll see.
There's some other options. Deontay Johnson from the Panthers is a name I've seen a bunch.
I would like that
sense.
one. Cooper Kupp has been floated around. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. Devontae Adams has been floated around.
Okay, so let's do this then. Cooper Kupp and Keenan Allen. We need wide receivers that are healthy. And no offense to Cooper Kupp, but neither of those two individuals have been healthy in like 3 or 4 seasons.
I ain't taking.
He's not even on the field.
That's all right. I'll still take him.
For what? To watch another guy on IR? Another guy on the PUP list, not playing list?
I'll take him still.
I get it. The Rams haven't been great.
Definitely not Keenan Allen. He sucks.
I'm not touching Keenan Allen. He's injured. He's injured again right now for the Bears.
Yeah.
Both of those guys are banged up. So I wouldn't really get my hopes up about either of those two individuals. You can kiss the Devontae Adams pipe dream all the way goodbye. If the Raiders trade the Chiefs, Devontae Adams.
I mean, hey, Antonio Pierce got to make some business decisions,
Yeah, he
Gotta
made
make a
one on
business decision.
Instagram liking
Yeah,
posts about him being
yeah.
potentially playing his last snap. The
Hey,
Raiders are a dumpster fire. Don't
maybe
get me
Antonio
wrong.
Pierce is a secret sleeper agent this whole time.
There's
And sends
no
us Devontae.
way Mark Davis could do that. They
Yeah,
can't.
that'd be pretty silly. That'd be pretty silly.
The 3,000 fans in Vegas that they have and the 100,000 in Oakland
Oh, that'd be
would
so
riot.
pissed. Oh my goodness, it'd be so great.
Can you imagine the discourse on social media if the Raiders gave the Chiefs Devontae Adams? Can you imagine?
Oh boy, yeah.
It's rigged.
I'm
They're
telling you,
fixing it.
we gotta manifest it just so we can see this craziness.
I almost don't even want to see that just because I don't want to listen to it for the next.
Yeah. Plus Devontae, I mean, 17's already taken. What numbers are you gonna wear? The whole thing. There's a whole thing.
I know you're the number freak. I don't
There's
care
a whole
about
thing.
that.
I'm telling you. Once you start looking at available numbers, no one's really.
The only way that you get Devontae Adams is if they trade him somewhere else and then that team trades him to you. I don't think there's any chance on earth
Not a
that
bad
the
idea.
Raiders
Tell Doug Peterson down in Jacksonville, hey, send them your first round pick.
I don't know that Doug Peterson's going to be the coach in Jacksonville all that much longer based on that press conference.
That's what I'm saying. While you still have a chance down there, Doug, send them their first round pick, and then I'll send them our way, and then you'll be our OC next year. And then, hey, it's happily ever after. That sounds like
you're retiring and Matt Nagy becoming head coach.
Sounds like a great plan to me, Kyle. I mean, hey, what? That sounds like a great plan to me. I don't know. I don't understand what's the problem.
Well, the only way Doug Peterson's your OC next year is if Andy Reid retires and Matt Nagy gets promoted.
Co-OC, he's co-OC with Nagy, and then they have Devontae Adams. Win-win. Who says no? I sure don't.
The Raiders again. Still.
Who says no? Who cares about the Raiders?
I mean, no? Like I said, there are options.
There are options, and we have a lot of time to.
Julio Jones is not an option. Some of the other guys that aren't on rosters.
We will say guys, though, with all this speculation and whatnot, nothing's going to happen this week, and probably not for maybe next week. Yeah.
Let's do this. If there's a free agent wide receiver out there in week 5, there's a reason they're a free agent. I'll just leave that there.
I wouldn't look into free agent. I would definitely look into a trade target more than anything. Someone who's actually in football shape at the moment. Hey, maybe there's certain guy on the Browns practice squad, I believe, that's still certain guy on the Browns practice squad. Kyle, you know who that is?
No.
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, no. I said no for a reason.
No, you said
I saw the stupid Arrowhead live poll.
You said no to not knowing who it was.
Yeah, because he doesn't exist.
No,
he's not an option.
No, that's my boy Kadarius.
He's not an option.
He might come back.
He's not an option if you want to win football games.
Hey, never know. You never know.
Do you know why he's on the Browns practice squad?
You never know.
He's not good enough to make the Browns active roster. And do you know how bad of a sign that is?
Well, he's not good to make a lot of teams roster. Yeah, that's his thing. Yeah, that's the thing. More than likely, if anything, we see this upcoming week is a practice squad elevation from one of the 3 receivers on the practice squad. And outside of that, we literally have no idea. And all this is just fodder and fun speculation until more is known. So
lots of nonsense.
With that,
everybody take a deep breath. It's going to be a long week.
Yep. Chiefs are still 4-0. It's not doom and gloom for sure. It's just going to be a little bit harder this season.
Lots of things that can
definitely going to continue to get harder for us. But yeah, we got to just keep on keeping on, and that's what we're going to keep on doing. So that being said, we appreciate you all for tuning in and rocking with us on this episode. We will be back later this week with a Saints Monday Night Football preview, which is going to be a very fun game because we're going to be in attendance. We are, the Kingdom Says is going to be in attendance.
Sure is.
Football. So
and we'll be in attendance at the tailgate. So if you're going to be around, you should probably let us know where you're going to be at. We might have to put something together. We might have to put out a little bird call if people. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So be on the lookout for us at the game. We'll talk about it more on the next episode and whatnot, as well as that giveaway. We'll mention more topics about that giveaway that we got going on. And yeah, that's it. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Kingdom Says Pod. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at. Yeah, really, really appreciate all the support that you can give us. And yeah, that'll do it. Thank you all for tuning in and watching, and we will see you guys
on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.